DERALE Fan Controller Part 2. There is no Part 1 because I deleted it because of too much cursing. So this is Part 2. 496 big block Chevrolet, nothing real fancy. DERALE second controller. I bought the integrated DERALE fan shroud with the dual fans. It has spall fans. The shroud and the fans work as they should and pump a lot of air. When I leave them on, I can get the engine down to about 170. Putting it up around 4,000 RPMs and gunning it, I can bring it up to about 190. As long as I back out of it, it'll come down to 170 with the fans running continuously. This is the second controller. The first one was the integrated one, which is exactly the same as this one, but about 50 more bucks, and mounts in your nice fan shroud. You push that punch out and destroy your fan shroud, and you hide all the wires, which makes for a nice show clean installation. After doing a meticulous installation, as meticulous as I wanted, and installing that and hooking it up per the directions and running a brand new power and ground all the way through the chassis with number 8 gauge wire all the way to the back and the battery. As they state, do not ground it to chassis. Here's my ground wire. I'd say that's pretty healthy, number 8 wire. Same with the power wire. Going all the way forward, nicely looped through the car. No interruptions. All the way to the controller. The first controller worked on override only and never worked with the temperature sensor. After just a few minutes, it decided to quit working on the override, and the fans were making a whining sound. Actually, the right fan quit working, the left fan was just barely turning and making a whistling sound. So I bypassed it as they recommended after contacting their customer support, and they assured me via customer support that it was going to work. So a week into it, and frustrated a little bit, but not blaming anybody, I came back after double checking my wiring about 300 times, came back and determined after DERALE's testing that it was not going to function. So trying to contact DERALE support one more time, they were very pleasant on the phone but didn't resolve my problem, so I contacted Summit and gave them the honest truth about it and shared some photos with them, and they promptly and without cost sent me a second unit. However, they didn't have the integrated unit in stock and it was back ordered. Surprise, surprise, I wonder why. So I went ahead after a few minutes of thought, though the Summit person asked me if I wanted to try a different brand. I guess I should have read between those lines. And they sent me the other one, and I sent the other one back, and I'm waiting for a credit of my $50, $60, $70, whatever the difference is. So rather than do a meticulous install on this one, I went ahead and just rigged it up as a temporary setup and just got done running the engine. And the override, I didn't even hook the override up. I just went ahead and overrid it from right here to ensure that I didn't have problems in my override circuit, maybe too much volts or amps or something like that. So I overrode it here. When you hit the override, it runs the fans at 60%, which was not enough to cool the engine down to about 190 to 200 degrees. So I followed their specifications and their instructions over there and over there, and I started playing with the little adjustment screw, which is located inconveniently down in that microscopic little hole, that tiny little screw. And I went ahead and adjusted it, and I got the fans to come on, and they ran at about, I would call it 30, maybe 40%, less than if you hit the AC override, which is set at 60%. This was not enough to bring the engine down to temperature. The engine kept creeping up just idle, and we're probably at about 82 degrees here today in Huffman, Texas. So I let the engine get up to around 200 degrees, and I came out and I used a jumper wire, and I jumpered, just like DERALE says, the sensor lead to the ground. This engaged the fans at full speed, 100%, and the engine cooled down to about 170. Even it came down to, at the housing, the thermostat housing, water return temperature, which is where my temperature gauge is hooked to. Temperature sender autometer gauge is hooked right there, was showing it to be about 165, 158, something like that. And I believe the actual engine temperature may have been a little bit lower, because that adapter, not to go off on another tangent, but that adapter, that beautiful little adapter, holds a tremendous amount of heat. And it holds a little bit more than what the intake holds, and it holds a lot more than what that little inexpensive housing holds. There's about a almost 20 degree difference between those two components, the spacer adapter and the thermostat housing, which is kind of weird, but whatever. So all in all, at present, I'm not very pleased. I have a second DERALE fan controller that I will send back and I will not buy again. And then I have a nice beautiful hole to overcome in the top of my fan shroud to try to decorate that back up so it looks decent, so I don't have to order another fan shroud and then custom fit it. So all in all, I'm going to give the DERALE fan controllers a big fat 0 and a complete waste of time and money. And I think that there's some other people that have had these problems that are not posting such a good video, not patting myself, but just posting a honest video, I should say, of what they've experienced with the DERALE fan controller. Also, I'd like to state that DERALE, although their name in this pretty little decal looks really cool, and the fan shroud is very nicely done piece of aluminum. It's very true, it's very square, it's a very quality piece of aluminum. The punch outs and design of it seem to be really well to hold the SPAL fans. So, you know, is what it is. Over here, I've opted, and I've had this on the bench since I started having problems, is this O'Reilly's brand Hayden 3654 dual speed fan controller. And this was about 65 bucks, I think, for this fan controller. And this is what I'm going to put to cool the $25,000 engine and transmission. So I'm going to put this mess of wiring in, which I didn't like at all. I'm going to spend several hours installing it because I bought the single speed one for about, I got this on a good deal because I buy a lot of parts. I bought this for about 25 or 30 bucks. This is the single speed Hayden controller, and guess what? It worked perfectly fine. But I prefer to have 2 speeds. It also has an AC override, just like the dual speed one. So I would say, one more time, I'm very disappointed, but I am certain that the good people at Summit will help me out with returning this product. But I got to tell you, I'm not happy with the DERALE product right now whatsoever. And I probably would not recommend them to anyone. I hope that helps anybody that is either having problems with their fan controller or is considering buying a more expensive fan controller. My experience is limited to the inexpensive Hayden ones at O'Reilly Auto Parts and the DERALE integrated and non-integrated units. And that is all my experience is on fan controllers. Anyway, hope it helps. Thanks a lot.